Okay, so today we're going to learn more about how our uh, ancestors prayed and also learn about the effects of prayer. So just to review, on Friday we learned about Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. All three of them prayed in different times for need. The first one was Avram, and he stood actually in prayer for the people of Sodom and Gomorrah, even though they were horrible and evil people. So we are in the paragraph beginning with the word following. I highlighted it. The following the sin of the golden calf, Hashem's wrath rose up against the nation of Israel, and Moshe Rabbeinu Moses prayed intensely until Hashem canceled the decree of disaster that he had threatened to bring to his people. So just very quickly, he stayed up on the mountain for a little bit and prayed. Hashem told him to go down. Then he went back up, and he went back up again and again until Hashem finally gave us the second Luchot on Yom Kippur. When Miriam, Moshe's sister, fell ill with leprosy, Moshe stopped and prayed, Kel na refa'ana la, oh God, please heal her. And she was healed. And in terms of that, we just had two prayers of Moses. So the Talmud says that if one wants to make their prayers lengthy, he should make them like Moses, who prayed 515 times to go into the land of Israel. And if one wants to shorten his prayer, he can do it as short as these 5 words that Moshe prayed for his sister Miriam, and she was healed. So it's not about how much time you put into it. It's not about how many times you say it. It's basically how much intention you have, how much concentration, and if it's immediate or long-lasting prayer. To turn back a heaven-sent plague, Aaron used the incense to pray, and the plague ceased. That's in Numbers 17. After the army of Israel was defeated by Ai, Hashem heard Joshua's prayers, and guided him to correct the sin of Achan, after which they won their next battle. So they actually conquered Ai immediately after that. When the Philistines waged war against Israel, Samuel cried out to Hashem for help on behalf of the nation. In answer, Hashem led him and Israel to defeat and conquer the Philistines. And now when we say in Slichos, Mishanala Shmuel b'mitzpah hu yanenu, whoever answered Samuel in mitzpah shall answer us, and that's obviously a reference to Samuel. And so far, all the ones that we mentioned are also mentioned in that prayer for Slichos and for Yom Kippur. And so it's just important to realize that all these people gave us that role model of praying, and sometimes it wasn't even for their own things. David, the king of Israel, would often pray to Hashem. His prayers eventually became the book of Psalms. After Shlomo finished building the temple, he prayed that the Shekhinah dwell therein, and that all people who pray there would be answered, and Hashem accepted his prayer. And we're not going to get into it, but just an interesting idea that the Talmud shares, that when Shlomo prayed that all people should be answered, as long as they're not praying against somebody else. So imagine if the United States representative was praying to beat the Soviet Union, and the Soviet Union guy was praying the opposite, and basically Shlomo asked Hashem to not accept those prayers because they're to harm other people, and that's not what prayer is for. When Elijah the prophet fought against the false prophets of Baal on Mount Carmel, he prayed that fire would descend from the sky, and so it transpired. Likewise, Elisha the prophet prayed to Hashem that he revive the son of the Shunammite woman, and the boy came back to life. And last but not least, when Chizkiah, King Hezekiah, faced death from his disease, and Isaiah, his future brother-in-law, came to tell him that he should make his house in order, put his house in order because he's going to die in 3 days. He turned to the wall and prayed, and he too prayed to Hashem and was cured immediately. And part of the solution was actually that he asked Isaiah to have his sister in marriage, and that way maybe the prayer will be more meaningful and the result will be a lot better for everybody. So we are in the last paragraph of chapter 2. One of the prayers that left a lasting impression on all generations is the prayer of Hannah. Barren for years, she would often pray at the tabernacle in Shiloh and was the first to refer to Hashem in her prayer by the holy name Tzevaot, which literally means hosts of armies. Eventually, she merited a son, none other than Samuel the prophet. Shmuel the prophet is said to have been equal to Moses and Aaron. We say that on Friday night in the last psalm before Psalm 29. And through Moses and Aaron, the word of Hashem was revealed in the transcendental, miraculous life of the Jew in the desert. And through Samuel, the word of Hashem was revealed in the tangible reality of the nation of Israel living in Eretz Israel. I don't know if I mentioned this, but Rav Melamed loves the land of Israel so much. I don't think that he ever left the land of Israel for anything. He is a second generation settler, and he has one very, very beloved blessing every time that he comes to a house or a community or a neighborhood that just finished building. He says, we must say this blessing. It's Baruch Atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam, matziv gvul al manav, which literally means Hashem reestablishes the border of a barren or widowed people. And so he's going to mention Eretz Israel, the land of Israel, in every opportunity possible. Shmuel unified the nation, founded the kingdom of David, reared a generation of prophets in Israel, and through his inspiration, the temple was built. Samuel's greatest and lofty soul was difficult to bring down to earth, and Hannah needed to pray intensely until she was worthy of giving birth to him. Her prayer is so important that Chazal numerous laws from it. So very quickly, we learn that you're allowed to pray in silence, and it's actually preferable if you are praying for something that is none of anybody else's business. We learn that you are allowed to face the direction that you believe is where Hashem is. We learn because Eli was in the entrance to the tabernacle, and it seems like she was standing next to the altar from the description there, and so she might have been praying not towards Jerusalem, but all kinds of other things, and Eli actually suspected that she was under the influence of alcohol, but thank God she wasn't. So we are now in chapter 3, the effects of prayer. Last week we said that Hashem sometimes answers no, but that we should continue praying anyway. So here he explains a little bit more about that. Hashem established a law in creation that when we awaken in the world below to approach the Almighty and request blessing from Him, He in turn is aroused from above to bring upon us an abundance of good according to our needs and the requirements of the world. This is mentioned in the Zohar Kadosh in many places. The Holy Zohar is the foundational book of our Kabbalah, of mystical writings. In other words, even when people are worthy that Hashem shower them with goodness, sometimes the giving is delayed until they feel the weight of their hardship and pray to Hashem from the depths of their hearts. And last week we also talked about the idea of the depths. So there are two types of prayer. The first is for the continual existence of the world. Without prayer, the world would cease to exist. And this kind of prayer paralleled the Tamid sacrifice, the merit of which sustains the heavens and earth. And that's according to Talmud in Tani 27b. The second type of prayer concerns specific circumstances, such as when disaster strikes and people pray for salvation, or when people pray for something they desire. Every prayer has an influential effect. As Rabbi Chanina says, whoever lengthens his prayers do not return unanswered. And that's also a reference to what we said before about praying as long as Moses. Sometimes the effect is immediate, and other times in distant future, sometimes the prayer is answered completely, other times partially. As Chazal say, great is prayer before Kadosh Baruch Hu. Rabbi Eliezer says, if you want to know the power of prayer, if it does not accomplish everything, it achieves half. Kadosh Baruch Hu is the one who knows how to help and support a person. Sometimes, for various reasons, a person's misfortune is for his own good, and therefore Hashem does not accept his prayer. Nevertheless, his prayer benefits him, and its blessing will be revealed in one way or another. And on that note, I have fresh off the press. Last night, I spoke to a friend in Israel who told me that less than 2 weeks before the October 7th attack, he broke both his hands. He's usually a fighter in an elite unit, and his whole unit was called as reserve duty when the war started, and he unfortunately couldn't go. He doesn't know why Hashem broke both his hands, but he told me that he feels that otherwise he would have been hurt in the war, and that this was Hashem's way of keeping him safe. It's incredible that I just heard this story last night of somebody who until yesterday was a total stranger, and now I believe we're good friends. So I'm going to stop the recording, and if there are any questions,